I made a video. Look how handsome I am. Oh my god, if I don't compliment myself, who will? And usually I don't make a response to my own videos, but this one had interesting takes in the comment section, and in order to prove that I do read the comment section and also to add something very intelligent, I have decided to make this video. Now, many of you have told me in the comment section that London is becoming like a place described by Alex Jones 5 years ago, where you can't really use cash for many things, and the number of things you can use cash for is shrinking constantly. I had that experience when I went to London, but it was only limited to the London Dungeon, the London Eye, and the London Zoo. So things operated by the government, interestingly enough, or at least I think they are. I think they're operated by the City Hall, right? Because they have to do with tourism and shit. But yeah, apparently now stores as well are becoming cashless. So, a person asked if this individual is actually committing a crime. Because what he is doing is that he purchased something worth of £2, and he placed his legal tender on the desk, and he left the store. This is shoplifting. Unfortunately, I have to say it is shoplifting. Due to the nature of the object taken, it is probably not punishable with a huge fine, but it is punishable nonetheless. Yes, he committed a crime. It's kind of like the equivalent of leaving a golden nugget on the desk, right? Because the thing is, that, and this is what most people don't know, we're talking about Britain, we're not talking about the United States. Like, they may have different laws there depending on which state you're in. In Britain, a store is not obligated to sell stuff to you. So if they want in exchange for the product, they want you to use card. If you don't use card, even if you were to leave $1 million worth in cash for a £2 product, you're still doing petty theft. So what will happen is, like, the store will have to return this gentleman's money, and he will have to either pay a fine, do community service, or get a warning from the cops. However, and this is where it's interesting, if it goes to court, and the reason this may actually go to court, it's very unlikely, but the reason it would go to court is to set an example, right? Because what I believe is happening is that they are testing to see how citizens act to the concept of a cashless society. Like, this is more of an experiment before it's going to be widespread. So they're trying to see how people act. And when you have an activist like this gentleman, which is trying to stir up shit, and is trying to raise the public awareness, and you even have people on his side, like when he goes out of the store, people are cheering and such, and on every single internet forum, people are siding with him, and they're saying, yeah, you know, the elimination of cash from society isn't necessarily a good thing, and he's sparking a conversation. They could try to make an example out of him. So they will try to go for the maximum sentence, you know, in order to dissuade other activists from doing this stuff. It is a possibility. Very unlikely, though, I do have to mention, but it is a possibility. Now, in the case that it actually goes to court, you know, he's going to have to pay a fine, whatever the punishment for shoplifting is, may have to do community service, but will also have to pay reparation to the store. Do you know how he needs to pay reparation to the store? With legal tender. And then the store is forced to accept his cash. So that's the irony of it. Because legal tender means that you can, like, in order to settle an obligation, or to settle a financial dispute, or if you have to pay taxes for the government, they are obliged to take your legal tender. So they are actually forced by law to accept your cash. And in this case, they have to take his money. But what's interesting is that I looked at the British law, and the court can actually decide the form of payment. So if you guys remember the situation with Count Dankula, like, he had to pay a fine for a joke. And I know it's ridiculous, but it's Britain we're talking about. And he didn't want to pay it. So what they did is, like, they took the money out of his bank account in order to pay for it, right? So it is possible that the judge can actually order that the debt be settled by paying in a account, by using a form of virtual payment. The reason that many people find this concerning, by the way, is, and I think, like, this is why the activists on the left don't like it at all, is because of what happened with Nigel Farage. Like, if we're going to live in a society where the stores and you also have the public ran institutions like the London Zoo, the London Aquarium, and so on and so forth. So you have like most of the things requiring people to use credit cards rather than pay with cash. The banks apparently can just refuse to do business with the person. So you can have someone like, for example, Nigel Farage, which no bank wants to do business with him, right? So like, how is that person supposed to live in a society? Like, I would rather go to prison than to suffer something like this. Like, think about it, right? Like, when you go to prison, it's for, like, you know what you did. You can defend yourself. You can get a lawyer. You can, face the person accusing you. You can be facing a jury of your own peers. And then after you go to prison, you have a finite sentence. And when you come out, you're considered rehabilitated, so you can reintegrate in society. Assuming you didn't commit something horrible, obviously. But if the banks refuse to do business with you in a cashless society, you can't really defend yourself. Like we saw in the case of Nigel Farage, the only way he even managed to find out why he was being punished is because he had the connections in order to find out and pressure the bank to give him a list, and they had like this entire dossier on him for wrong thing. So, like, the first thing, like, you can't defend yourself. The second thing, you don't know how long this shit will last. Like, for example, if this person ends up being arrested for petty theft, he's going to be told, it's like, okay, well, you're going to have to serve 24 hours in community service, right? So he knows, like, after 24 hours, things return to normal. But if the banks refuse to do business with you, you don't know how long it will take. From what I gathered, it's your entire fucking life. I mean, I don't expect that Alex Jones is ever going to be allowed to come back on social media or have another PayPal account. I mean, the man can be in his 90s. We can even forget what he did by then, after a couple of decades. But he's still going to be punished. And of course, like, how do you actually live in a society where you can't have access to a bank? Like, most jobs are going to pay you using credit cards, right? Like using bank transfer. You want to buy something, you have to use credit card. Even if you're a beggar. Like, even if you beg on the streets, and you would have some people taking pity on you and wanting to give you money, how would they do that? How would they give you money? How would you be able to take it? Because it's in electronic form. Do you see, like, how horrible this system is? Like, how draconic? It's worse than prison. And, yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to pay rent. You're not going to have a house. You're not going to be able to buy food. You're not going to be able to do literally anything. And this is why people do not enjoy the idea of a cashless society. There is way too much power in the hands of unaccountable people, which are the bankers in this situation. So the bankers can literally decide if a person gets to exist in a society or not. And by existence, I mean, again, like, how are you going to pay your rent? How are you going... And it's not only that, like we saw in the case of Nigel Farage and a couple of other conservative people in the UK, their families can also be affected. So just because, like, you're related to someone that is guilty of wrong thing, well, now that person can have his bank accounts terminated. So it is absolutely dreadful. It's nightmarish what is happening. I genuinely do not think, like, the general population has spent a lot of time to think this through. And I do not think that most people are even aware that this may happen. The only thing that people know is like, oh, well, this store asks me for credit. That's fine. I'll just pay with credit. And you do the payment with the credit, and that's fine. Right? Like, they don't really think that this may actually become widespread in a society. And we saw that in China. It is becoming widespread. I mean, that's the whole point of it. And this is why they don't like it when people are raising awareness and they are making a fuss out of this, which this gentleman definitely did. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.